Hello, I'm Howard, pastor of the Roseville New Church, and welcome to Spiritual Shorts. Today we're talking about faith and why it's about more than just belief. There's a common misconception in Christianity that faith alone is enough to save us. Many think that as long as they believe in Jesus as their Lord and Savior, they are saved, regardless of the life they lead. But if we look at Jesus' teachings, we'll see that there's far more to faith than just belief, no matter how strongly held or vigorously defended. Many may believe that simply having faith is enough for salvation, but Jesus often rebuked his disciples for their lack of faith. Jesus used the phrase, "O you of little faith," 4 times in the Gospels. First, during the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers, He will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith?" Next, when the disciples were terrified during a storm, Jesus said, "Why are you afraid? You have so little faith." And then He calmed the storm. Another time, the disciples forgot to bring bread and worried. Jesus reminded them of His miracles and said, "Why do you have such little faith? Why do you reason among yourselves because you have brought no bread?" Finally, when Peter walked on water but began to sink, Jesus called to him and said, "You have so little faith. Why did you doubt me?" These instances show that Jesus expects more from us than just belief. He calls for a living, active faith. Faith isn't just about believing, it's about how we live our lives. The teachings for the new church emphasize that faith is nothing without a life of goodness. True faith leads to action. Let's take Peter's story as an example. Peter walked on water toward Jesus. In the symbolic language of the Bible, this means living according to God's instructions. This act of walking is a metaphor for living a life of faith. Walking towards the Lord means following His teachings in our daily lives. In our spiritual growth, it is useful to understand the mechanism at play here. Faith is first in time, while charity is first in intention. We need to build our lives around faith and then act from charity. In the new church, faith is understood as the internal acknowledgment of truth, an acknowledgment that only exists with those who are in charity. True faith shows up in our actions, loving, serving, and humbling ourselves. We acquire an authentic faith by going to the Lord, learning truths from the Word, and living according to them. It's about learning and living His teachings. Finally, the sum of faith is that those who live well and believe rightly are saved by the Lord. Living well and believing rightly together create a saving faith. So remember, faith is more than just believing. It's about walking the walk, living a life of goodness, and following the Lord's teachings. Let's strive for a faith that's alive and active in everything we do. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Spiritual Shorts. May God bless you and keep you.